What will happen in the next Spider-Man game? Who will be the villains? Who will be the next Ultimate Spider-Man? Will we see Carnage and other villains that we didn't see in previous games? All of this we need to explore and talk about in today's video. Welcome back guys, hope you're doing amazing. Welcome back to this new episode, Gaming Talks with Giammi. And today we're going to talk about the future of the Spider-Man franchise, of Marvel Spider-Mans, the game that we just played, where we cried, we laughed, we cried again, and we platinumed it. I'm really excited about this video, so we're going to jump straight into it. We're going to talk about what I think will be the likely path that Insomniac will take, what will be the likely things that will happen in the game, and kind of make a prediction of what will happen, a prediction of what we think will happen, and in 4, 3, 5 years time we'll see whether we were right. So let's jump into the video, let's go. So let's look at the direction Insomniac can take the game further. In my opinion, there's two different paths. One of them will be Wolverine, Spider-Man 3, Miles Morales 2, where Miles becomes the next friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, taking over from Peter Parker. And then the second one, which I think is more likely, will be Wolverine, Miles Morales 2, and then Spider-Man 3, the final chapter, the conclusion to this franchise. And I'll tell you why I think this will be the most likely option. It's because of timeline. First of all, let's look at the past. We've seen in 2018 we got Spider-Man 1, then a bunch of DLCs, then Miles Morales, and then Spider-Man 2. What this allowed to happen is allowed the story to build up into Spider-Man 2, allowed the characters to develop more by the time they reach Spider-Man 2, and allowed, characters like, especially like Miles. So Miles grew massively from the first Spider-Man, from Miles Morales, from Spider-Man 2. And I think Miles Morales was an essential piece for the character development and the story development of Spider-Man 2. And I think they'll do a similar thing later, because Spider-Man 3 needs setup. Right now we know very little information about Spider-Man 3, about the plot, about the villains, about everything. So I think the events that will happen in Wolverine and in Miles Morales 2 will then set up Spider-Man 3. We'll see characters like Silk, we'll see them develop, hopefully. We'll see them, like the same mental relationship that Peter and Miles had with Miles and Silk. We'll see the villains maybe develop. We'll see some villains coming over from Miles Morales or Wolverine into Spider-Man 3. So I think the ideal timeline for this game will be the following. Like I said, it will be Wolverine, as we know it's in the same universe. And I do think some of the events will transpire into Spider-Man 3. Miles Morales 2, where we will finish, develop Miles, where Silk will be introduced, and then the story will lead into Spider-Man 3. So this is what I think the timeline will be, and let's look at then more in detail what each year will look like. So from all the way from Wolverine all the way to Spider-Man 3. Let's see. So let's start with 2024. That's the release year of Wolverine. I know very little about Wolverine. I don't know if there's any leaks out there, but all I know is that it's going to be the next Insomniac game, and it's going to be in the same universe as Spider-Man. And that's going to be a really interesting point, because Insomniac can do two things right now. One is a standalone Logan game, no crossover, no connection to Spider-Man, even though they're in the same universe, no connection whatsoever. The second thing, which I think hopefully will be quite likely and hopefully will happen, is some sort of crossover with enemies and characters of the Spider-Man universe. And if I have to think of all the characters, I think the most likely character that we will see in Wolverine is Norman Osborn. I think it would be very cool to see maybe Norman trying to track down Logan to get his DNA. We know Logan has amazing skills, like he can regenerate his health really quickly, has super strength, all things that could help and save Harry. So it would be interesting to see Norman as a major or minor character within the game, and because they kept emphasizing the fact that Wolverine is in the same universe as Spider-Man, I think that gives a hint and we will see some crossover. And again, I think Wolverine will be the first step to introduce Spider-Man 3 in the future. And then we reach 2026. Miles Morales 2 will come out, and I really hope it will be like a 10-hour plus game where it's the final piece to set up Spider-Man 3. We will have characters like Silk introduced, and I really hope to see the relationship between Miles and Silk grow as much as the relation between Peter and Miles did in the previous games. Make Silk almost like his sidekick, and then see Silk grow into like an actual Spider-Man character, the same way Miles did. In terms of the story for this, it would be also nice to have the Spider-Verse introduced. We had a hint of the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man, with the Spider-Bots in Spider-Man 2. Maybe Miguel can make an appearance in this one. Like, I really hope to have a Spider-Man 2099 game in the future. So it could be something that we can see, like the Spider-Verse coming through. And I think the story can be divided into two ways. One of them can be a complete brand new story, just like they did in the first Miles Morales, where it was the Tinkerer, you know, the Underground. And the second one could be a bit of a cleanup. So, you know, there's old bosses like the Chameleon and the Carnage that we didn't see in Spider-Man 2 as much. So we could see maybe Miles fighting those characters, make him grow into a stronger character, an even bigger Spider-Man figure. We could also see Norman Osborn trying to like make Octavius escape from the raft. But I do think that would maybe more focus on Spider-Man 3. So yeah, it could be, there's loads of different avenues for Miles Morales 2. Like I said, we have Silk, we have Carnage, we have the Chameleon, we have the Spider-Verse. So we'll be very interested to see what they come up with, because I'm not worried. Like, if you ask me, are you worried the story won't be as good? No. Insomniac has shown that in the past 2 games they can really write stories, both sticking to the comics and both going on their own way, creating their own stories like the Tinkerer. So I'm not worried at all that Insomnia will come up with like amazing fucking stories. I mean, you can see also like representations. You know, Miles is the new generation Spider-Man. Like the same way Silk, I think, will be the next generation Spider-Man. She will be the first female Spider-Man in the game. And I think that's a really powerful message that shows anyone can wear the mask. You know, we have Peter Parker, we have Miles Morales, then we have Cindy Lou. So like we have so many different characters that are you know, are part of this universe, and I think that's really an powerful message. And I'm the most critical guy when it comes to representation and things, because sometimes people use that to replace holes in storytelling. But what Insomniac has done is shows that anyone can be a Spider-Man, anyone can be a superhero, and I really love that message for people who play this game, especially younger audiences. We also have in Spider-Man 2, we could have the potential of you know, Doctor Strange. We've seen that when we make a Black Cat escape from Wong, we get a message, so we could see Doctor Strange in Miles Morales 2. But I think Miles Morales will be the last piece that will set up Spider-Man 3. I think we will have either a cleanup or the old bosses, but I think we will get, a hint in the end that Norman Osborn is behind everything, and Norman is trying to, like, you know, is trying to make Octavius escape from the raft. So now we're reaching 2028. We reach Spider-Man 3, the final chapters. But first, let's see how we got here. So we had the Wolverine game where we're in the same universe, and we think there will be a crossover of events and enemies. Then we have a Miles Morales 2 where we see a stronger Miles growing, becoming a mentor to new characters like Silk, potential Spider-Verse introduced. We see Miles becoming a more established Spider-Man after defeating legacy characters like Carnage and the Chameleon. And throughout both games, we have this underlying subtext of Norman's revenge. Norman is planning something to defeat Spider-Man, which leads us into Spider-Man 3. I have no idea what could happen in Spider-Man 3, you know, it's so far away. But I have a few ideas, a few predictions I want to make now. First one will be, obviously, we know the main villain will be Green Goblin. I'm 100% sure about that. Green Goblin will be main villain. We've seen the Green Goblin hinted throughout Spider-Man 2. We've seen it with the way Norman dresses. We've seen it with the balloons around the cities, and especially the school. We've seen it when this is something I haven't saw a lot of people speaking about, but when they're describing Harry, when they're plotting how to stop the symbiote and Harry, they use a goblin figure to describe Harry, which I think is very, very, you know, big foreshadow. But the question I have is, who will be the Green Goblin? Will it be Harry or will it be Norman? And I honestly think it could be both. There's a cartoon called The Amazing Spider-Man, The Spectacular Spider-Man, I forgot. It is an amazing cartoon, I highly recommend watching it. It's where Peter Parker basically is the biggest Rizzler ever. Like, he basically has all the girls in the freaking show. But basically, in the final season of that cartoon, both Harry and Norman are the Green Goblins. And I do think they might develop a story where both characters, Norman and Harry, because of the side effects of the G serum, they pretty much develop a hatred for Peter Parker, and they start to collaborate to defeat him. So we will see both a Harry and a Norman fighting against each other, fighting against Peter. And this is a very far-fetched theory, but what if in the final mission, we see Peter Parker in a corner, almost being defeated by both goblins, and then all of a sudden, Harry takes back his consciousness, and to save Peter, he kills Norman, and that will be, I think, a really cool really cool mission, a really cool moment in the game where we see Harry becoming, taking back his body, becoming stronger, taking back his consciousness, and to stop Norman from killing Peter, the only thing that he could do is either kill each other, like sacrifice both each other, kill each other, or kill Norman. Again, this is a very far-fetched theory, but we'll see. I really cool. It would be really cool if it happens. Then we also have Octavius. I think Octavius will help Norman, or maybe he will pretend to help Norman and then trick him, deceive him, by the end. I do think we will have 3 Spider-Mans in this game. I think it will be sort of like GTA, where you have like the wheel of characters, where you can play as Peter, you can play as Silk, and you can play as Miles. I think that would be really cool. I really think there will be new villains. I think Insomniac will, because we've pretty much seen all the villains, and 90% of the villains we've seen are pretty much all either dead or incarcerated. Like we know characters like Mysterio and Mr. Negativity, they became good. So we've seen that like a lot of characters have left the Spider-Man universe. So I do think there will be a lot of new characters introduced, and this will be through Wolverine, through Miles Morales 2, and through the comic books. I'm sure Insomnia will come up with something. I'm really confident about this. And then something that I was thinking about, if you look at the different Spider-Mans, they all have different themes. Spider-Man 1 is about loss. Miles loses his dad, Peter loses his aunt, loses the Foundation. Like there's a lot of loss in the game, even like from the enemy's perspective. Octavius loses everything, and like Mrs. Negativity loses everything. So there's a lot of loss. That's the main theme. In Spider-Man 2, it's pretty much a happy ending. I want to say, Peter gets the final break he needs. Miles becomes the confident Spider-Man he's always dreamed about. Even like Harry's alive. So I want to say Spider-Man 2 is all about rebirth. It's about reborning, recreating, it's a happy ending. So that means Spider-Man 3 it could be about loss again, but I don't think it would be nice, to see like a Spider-Man dying. But I think it's about hope, it's about rise. It's about like, we've seen in Spider-Man 2 how they said New York has been going through a lot, a lot of changes, a lot of like, they've been through, Spider-Man 1 with the biological weapons, Spider-Man 2 with the symbiotes and the aliens. So I think Spider-Man 3 will be our hope. It will be about how Miles Morales is the next Spider-Man, is the next hope of the game. I think the Insomniac, and we've seen already in Spider-Man 2, will push Miles as the pedestal, as the next friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And we'll see maybe either Peter Parker sadly pass away, which will open the door to the Spider-Verse even more, or we will see a Peter completely like hanging up, deciding that's it, I don't want to do this anymore. And Miles will be the hope, will be that character that comes back and says, "This, New York will be safe under my hands." But yeah, so this is what I kind of think is the overall context of Spider-Man 3. Like I said, I think villains will be introduced in Wolverine and Miles Morales 2, but they could be new. They could be working as well for the Goblin. I think the Goblin as well enough will be a big enemy to defeat, because in a lot of the Spider-Man movies. We've seen Goblin alone making more damage than 90% of the other villains. So we will see where they go. But I think the Goblin will be the toughest and the hardest villain we've faced ever. And it will be interesting to see how they handle it. I do really hope to see maybe both Harry and Norman as goblins, and then Harry taking over and killing Norman to save Peter or to save Miles. So it would be very interesting. But yeah, this is kind of like what I think Spider-Man 3 will look like. So this is pretty much it. Thank you so much for listening and to me rambling about Spider-Man. I honestly love this franchise a lot, and I think it's an amazing game. Insomniac has really done a really great job into it. I really like what they've done, and I think this is going to be the timeline. We have Wolverine coming soon, then will be Miles Morales 2, and then Spider-Man 3. We talked about the different predictions that we have for the different games. For Miles Morales, for Wolverine, for Spider-Man 3. We talked about what we think will happen, the different characters that we have still in the different characters, and the different potential cameos that we can see. We talked about the Spider-Verse. We talked about the themes of loss, rebirth, and hope. So I really hope to see what will happen. I think I really want to watch this video 5 years from now and see how much we got right and how much we got wrong. But overall, I want to say a big thank you to everyone, a big thank you to Insomniac for giving us this game. And we'll talk again. I will do a reaction video on this video in 5 years time, or like every time a new game comes out. Let's see whether I'm right or wrong. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate you staying. I hope my voice wasn't too annoying. The fact I'm sick, that my nose is completely stuffed. But thank you so much for staying. Love you all. Stay safe, and like they say, be greater, be amazing. See you. Bye.